But I don't want you going and sitting up under the tree and looking at that river, because you'll start figuring out a way to get across it. And that's not good for my business as a slave master. Because I'll wake up tomorrow and you'll be gone because you're a thinking slave. And that's the one thing I don't want none of you people to do, is ever do some serious thinking. I'd like for you to keep being noisy, talking about nothing. Getting on your cell phones, talking all day, nonstop about nothing. Calling people names. Talking random. Worshiping random talk. Any assembly of people that happen to get together somewhere, go over there and check on them and make sure that if they're the slave category, if they're the subservient category, make sure that they are talking nothing but nonsense. Calling each other names and then getting angry and getting in a fight. I'll go along with that. I'll come and break up the fight until they start another fight 3 weeks later. Let them kill each other every now and then. Keep that going. Keep that going. Keep that going. Don't let them ever get together and get quiet and do some serious thinking. It's okay if they're singing and clapping their hands and jumping up and down. It's okay if they're fighting. But if they're doing some serious thinking, don't let them do that. Do the thinking yourself. If you're a slave master, you do all the thinking. Don't let them do any thinking except about something that you have given them to think about. And that's a bunch of foolishness. Now, anything that's going to lead nowhere, anything that's going to be harmful to them without being harmful to you, let them do that and help them to do it. No problem there. Anything that they want to inject in their bodies is not going to build their bodies up, is going to tear it down. Let them do that. Just don't let them do too much of it because you have some work for them to do. But let them entertain themselves with nonsense. And whatever you do, don't let them do any serious thinking and start using logic. If you catch any of them doing it, kill them.
Mr. Fuller, we have someone on the line, area code 718. You have a question for Neely Fuller?
I'm sure I could meet the gentleman, but I just tuned in, and I'm not sure exactly where we are.
Okay, you're just listening, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, hold on.
Can you brief me in a little bit?
Well, Mr. Fuller has wrote a book, and it's called The United Independent Compensatory Code, System, and Concepts, and it's about racism, counter-racism, how to deal with racism. Now,
well, does the book cover any type of law aspect?
Law?
Yes, yes.
L-A-W?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Right, but it doesn't get into the details. It speaks in broad generalities, but the generalities are codified, meaning it's first of all we redefine a lot of words, including law. Law is anything that's done.
So
see that, and then it starts from that premise. Law is whatever is done. Whatever you see a person doing at that particular time, in that moment, when that person is doing whatever that person is doing, that is a law.
So we're going back to some type of country justice or Western justice or something to that effect. That's
no, law is not the same as justice. Justice has never been produced by anybody. It's in recorded history as far as we know. We've never seen any evidence of justice because there's a definition of justice, too, in the code book. Justice is balance between people. You've never had balance between people as far as anybody can remember. Now,
true.
people said that maybe thousands of years ago we may have had it, but there's no recorded evidence of that. People have always mistreated people. You can't have a person being mistreated and say that you have justice.
I've heard a lot of people say that, but nobody wants to tap into the mysteries and the histories of beginning of civilization, you know. And it's ironic because when you're talking about ancient Africa, in a sense, there was no word or concept found anywhere that of a jail, because there was no word for a jail. There weren't any. So there was some form of peace or martial justice going around town. That's for sure.
Well, I've given a compensatory definition of justice that I have tailored to the times that we're in now and have been for some time. And it's a compensatory definition, meaning, by compensatory, I mean a definition made for a word where the word that is being used does not cover what is really going on and is not applicable. Well, and the word justice has, people have defined it in many different ways, but I have chosen to define it in a way that I think is logical, and I think is the best definition, and it is as follows. It's in two parts.
I definitely understand, but are you disenfranchised with the current state of affairs of the government or something to that effect that you want to redefine it?
Well, see, you're just coming in, so and you're using words. All of the words that you're using are fine. But see, when you say the government, there's just one government on the planet. See, because we're getting into the definition of words, and that government. So we have to slow down first. And I just like to make the presentation because, from the perspective that I am given, because I'm saying the perspectives that have been used have been set up to fail, including what is the government. The government.
I definitely agree with that. This system is a failure system.
Okay, now, but we want to know what the system is. The system is the system of white supremacy. That is the system. That's the only government on the planet. There is no other government. There are just a lot of people walking around who call themselves a government.
Well, that wouldn't necessarily be true for China, would it? I mean, China, as far as I know, is suppressing their own people, and they're not white or classified they're Asians.
Then that comes down to whether the people who are called yellow or brown in that color category, because we're talking about colors now, are subject to the system of white supremacy. I have concluded that they are. Otherwise, there would be no such thing as white supremacy. White supremacy means you're supreme all the time, not some of the time.
But you're white.
You're in charge all the time.
But white.
Nothing moves without your permission.
But you're white at that point.
Yes, it takes a white person to practice white supremacy. Now, not all white people practice white supremacy.
The Asians as brown, so it can't be true for
wait a minute.
Government.
Well, wait a minute. Let's slow down so I can hear what you're saying.
Okay.
Okay, you're saying what now?
I says, well, you classify the Asians as brown or yellow or something to that.
Hold it. Okay. Hold it right there. See, we can't move too fast. In codification, we cannot move fast.
Okay, definitely.
Because the truth gets lost.
Definitely.
Okay.
I'm with you.
Now, when we say Asian, there is no definition for the word Asian.
Well,
except I have given it a compensatory definition because I didn't find a definition that applied. So I say an Asian is a person that practices justice. So there's no such thing as an Asian person because justice does not exist.
Not sure I quite follow that one.
That's what I mean. See, in other words, the approach, the reason I'm on this program and the reason I wrote my book is because I discovered a long time ago that a lot of terms are being used that cannot be applied to truth.
Well, these terms, this language alone is adopted, right? This
Hello?
language alone was transformed and formatted and piecemealed from other different dialects, Latin and whatever else was mixed in, isn't it? So the whole language is not...
Wait a minute, hold it, slow down. What was the question?
I'm saying that the whole American language, English, was fragmented and pieced from other different cultures of the time, wasn't it? So the whole language of English is at some point a non-vibrational tone that can give you peace, I suppose.
Well, all language is nothing but a tool. Words are nothing but tools for communication.
Absolutely.
But what you do, when you hear a word, you ask the person who is using the word, what does the word mean? That's the only way you can communicate.
Trip up a lot
Only
of
the
people.
person who is using the word can tell you what the word means.
Right, absolutely.
So you don't get what? So you don't get confusion.
Well, you might.
Because that's the one thing you definitely don't want.
And you also might not get to the end of where you were trying to go in the beginning.
Well, you're trying to get to the truth when you communicate, first of all. And then you're trying to also figure out where it is that you're trying to use truth for.
Absolutely.
In order to accomplish what goal.
Absolutely.
That's the whole purpose for communicating. That's the whole purpose when you get in a taxi and you communicate with the taxi driver. You want it very clear about where you are going. Otherwise, the taxi driver is going to get confused, and then there's going to be a breakdown in communication, and then there's going to be some dislocation, too, because you may wind up going where you did not intend to go.
Absolutely. So, in your original my original understanding of what you were talking about, are you advocating vigilante justice for immediate justice, swift action for?
I have to ask questions now. See, that's when we are slowing down. What do you mean by vigilante? And justice means nobody being mistreated.
Well,
and the person who needs help the most gets the most help. See, that's the one thing that's been missing in the equation that deals. I just like to say this, which deals with solving the race problem.
Right.
The non-white people who are the ones who are subject to the system of racism, in trying to counter racism, we have never come up with a code that is super razor sharp exact.
Right.
And this is why we ramble in all of our meetings and what when we talk about solutions to the race problem. You hear people make speeches on and on and on, lasting for hours sometimes, putting people to sleep and then waking them up again.
Well, you're not going to.
And the reason nothing ever happens is because the language that is being used is not even tailored to address what they're talking about.
Well, you're not going to.
And wait a minute, let me continue.
Okay.
And you're not being specific. I started noticing that. That's when I started writing the book.
Right.
It's because I started noticing it. And I was doing it myself. And I said, why is it that we can have 1 million meetings and nothing ever happens, except everybody gets emotionally charged?
I agree.
And I said, it's because we're not being scientific. That's why.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
We're not following logic. We are having meetings where we drum up emotions.
Well,
and we ride on the emotions, and the emotions last maybe 15 minutes after you leave the place, and they leave you before you get to the parking lot.
And you go back to a dormant mental state, forget the
Yes, and then you go back to a state of almost comatose until the next meeting, where you go back for another fix. It's like a drug. And see, science is not a drug.
No.
Science is cause and effect that gets things done.
Right.
See, so you want a code where you can actually build a house, you might say.
Right.
Or you can move the car from one place to another. Or you can move the rock from one place to another. I mean, and you come up with a scientific formula. When you look at the rock in the middle of the road, you say, what's the formula for moving that rock from here to over to the side of the road?
Right.
And you come up with an exact formula for doing just that. And it's not an emotional thing, it's a scientific thing. Now, that's not to say that emotions don't serve a purpose. But the white supremacist said, I want my victims to have plenty of emotions.
Right, that's the
but no logic at all.
I
don't want them to be able to use logic. I just want them to be able to feel things and brag about how they feel, but not being able to do anything about anything.
I want to bring another caller in. We have a caller from area code 520. Are you there? 520? Okay.
I just can't log in. I can't. I'm having trouble logging in.
We can hear you.